Airline profits are soaring this year. So why are more communities than ever being left without enough air service? Here with the story is WSJ middle seat columnist Scott McCartney, who has some exclusive data on service cuts. Hi, Scott. With the economy improving, more people are needing to get around, and yet the flights just aren't there to accommodate everyone. Is this what's driving up prices?
Yeah, it really is, Tanya. Certainly not to Apple levels, but airlines are making a lot of money, and they've done that by limiting their capacity so they can charge higher prices.
So, Scott, have there been accusations of collusion here? Because we all know what happens to prices when there's high demand and low supply.
Yeah, the Justice Department has launched an investigation into the capacity moves of the four biggest airlines. They've all denied that they did anything illegal. Essentially, they all came to the same conclusion at the same time. They publicly all talked about reducing capacity in order to give them more pricing power. And that's what they did. And so whether they, work this out behind closed doors amongst themselves or whether they did it publicly remains to be seen with the investigation.
All right. Now, how much of all of this has to do with the airline mergers we've seen?
Well, that's really what gave them the ability to do this. 8 big airlines consolidated into 4 big airlines. The 4 now control about 80% of the tickets sold in the U.S. And so you have a situation where instead of trying to knock each other off with market share and trying to find ways to get bigger and grow, to buy airplanes and expand, they're more content now to try and do what airlines have not been able to do, which is take some of the violent swings out of the business and become a more stable, profitable industry. The result of that is a lot of communities don't have the air service that they became accustomed to, right. And they're hurting.
Well, the Wall Street Journal asked Mass Flights, correct, to look into where flights have been cut the most, and what were the findings?
It's very uneven. It's quite disproportionate. Some of the smaller hubs, as travelers know, have been eliminated: Memphis, Cleveland. Some hubs have been shrunk considerably: Washington, Dulles, Cincinnati, other places. Small towns have been hurt greatly by this. In general, the cuts seem to have been in the middle part of the country and in the southern part of the country for the most part. Several cities on the West Coast have done quite well. Some parts of the East Coast are up, some parts of the East Coast are down.
And so with whole hubs that are being lost, what's the impact of that on a local level?
It's interesting. There's a local impact and a national impact. The local impact is, of course, it's devastating. If you're in Memphis, you no longer have nonstop flights to Boston, to San Francisco, to a host of cities. So very tough on the Memphis community or whatever community is losing that air service. But also it has an impact on all of us nationally. With fewer connections in Cleveland or Memphis or lots of other hubs, there are fewer flight combinations. Ultimately, that means fewer low-fare tickets.
Right.
So if you're trying to get from the East Coast to the West Coast or from north to south, you don't have the option of Memphis anymore, and airlines aren't competing for your business through those hubs, so fares are higher.
And Scott, how many fewer flights are there now compared to 4 years ago? And are some of the smaller airlines stepping in to fill these holes?
So with July schedules, so we looked at this year compared to past years. July compared to 4 years ago, there are more than 11,000 fewer flights in the U.S., domestic flights.
Wow.
It's essentially, you can look at it as wipe out Dallas-Fort Worth International and Houston Intercontinental. Take out those 2 giant airports. That's more than 11,000 flights. So it's 7%. It's a big impact. Smaller airlines have filled in some places. Obviously, they don't have the total impact. Southwest is one of the big airlines that's reduced a lot of flights, so pulled out of some AirTran cities. So the low fare impact is just as uneven as the total impact.
All right, Scott McCartney, thank you so much for that.